we need to talk about Vizio. What's up guys, Brad here. So Vizio finally released their firmware that was promised to fix a bunch of issues that people have had over the past year-ish or so with certain Vizio display models. Now, I actually got this firmware last week while editing that Disney Plus IMAX Enhanced video, so I didn't really have a chance to check it out then. However, I've been spending some time with this new firmware over the past week, and while it does fix some of the issues it promises, it also introduces some new issues, with one in particular being a major downside. Now, to the point where I can't currently recommend this TV at all to anyone looking at purchasing it until it has been fixed. So I'll talk about that issue soon. Now, this video will primarily focus on the issues and experiences that I've had with the new firmware on my own 85-inch Vizio P-Series Quantum X. Now, depending on your Vizio model, you may have no issues at all, completely different issues, or just a boatload of issues. Who really knows, right? Now, this firmware does cover quite a range of Vizio displays, and I'll go ahead and list those on the screen now so you know if your set is eligible for the new firmware. Though I will say right now, if your set hasn't received the update yet, you want to go ahead and disconnect it from the internet to prevent it potentially causing the issues I'm about to discuss. So I do quickly want to run through how my experience has been owning this set for the past 9 to 10 months before diving into this new firmware. Now, we purchased the 85-inch Vizio P-Series Quantum X back in late February of this year, 2021, from Costco, and I actually did make a couple videos on it back in April, so if you want to check those out, follow that card above there. But overall, both me and my wife have been incredibly happy with it. Yes, it does have some issues here and there, and I talked about those in the previous video, mainly raised black levels with Dolby Vision content through the Apple 4K TV and a few select UHD discs, 4K 120 mode not really working unless you turn game mode off, and also some really strange motion artifacts when reduced judder is set to anything higher than 1 in the menu. Overall though, the picture quality for the price is why I bought the TV in the first place, and that has been absolutely stellar over the past 9 to 10 months. No regrets in that regard. Now, even though I am a fan of Vizio and their price to performance, when it comes to their displays, I am not biased in any way with any TV brand over the other. I just wanted the best bang for the buck picture quality I could get, and at the time of the purchase, that was a Vizio P-Series Quantum X. Now, before we run through what this firmware breaks and why I would not recommend updating to it yet, let's run through what I've found has been fixed with this new firmware first. Now, it does fix 4K 120 on the PS5 and other devices and consoles, for me and my set at least. I've had no issues getting 4K 120 on supported games on the PS5 with game mode enabled, and switching game mode off has no effect on motion. Now, if you're not familiar with the previous issue, basically you had to disable game mode in order for the set to actually display 120 frames per second. As with game mode enabled, it would actually skip every other frame, giving you just 60 frames per second from a 4K 120 signal. Also, I can now get 4K 120 if I hook up my PC, which has an NVIDIA 2070 Super, directly to the Vizio using an HDMI cable from the graphics card's output. Now, the 2070 Super is an HDMI 2.0 graphics card, so I'm limited to just 420 color space and can't use HDR, but I can enable variable refresh rate or G-Sync and use that without issue. Now, the 2070 Super is honestly not the best card for 4K gaming, but for certain games that allow it to push high frame rates in 4K, the difference with G-Sync enabled is noticeable and a welcome improvement. The Vizio's boot up time has also been dramatically reduced to the point where it's almost instant. Now, before you'd hit the power button on the remote, the Vizio logo would pop up for 5 to 10 seconds, maybe longer. Then the screen would go black for another 5 to 10 seconds, again, maybe longer, before finally popping up with the no signal screen, or in my case, the Denon logo from my receiver. Now, there is maybe a total of 5 seconds between the time I hit the power button and when the Denon logo pops up. Definitely an improvement. Now, those are the fixes that I've personally noticed myself, but there is a whole list of fixes that Mike Wood, the director of product management at Vizio, posted over on Reddit. If you're interested in checking that out and reading what else has been updated and fixed, I'll put a link to that Reddit post in the description below. Now, let's move on to the bad stuff, basically what this new firmware breaks. Now, some of these are fixable, but unfortunately, some are not. If something is fixable, I'll tell you what I did so you can try it for yourself on your set and see if it works for you. So the first thing I'll talk about and show is what I'll just call image ghosting on cuts. Basically, it's almost like the Vizio can't keep up when the shot changes, and so you get some weird ghosting artifacts from the previous shot for a few frames in the new shot. If we take a look at this scene from Avengers Endgame between the Hulk and the Ancient One, which I did record in slow motion so you can really see the issue, you'll notice that when it cuts to a different shot, you can see an overlay or outline of the previous shot on this new one for a few frames. Now, this is with all of the Vizio's extra processing like reduced noise and motion interpolation disabled, so that's not causing this issue here. If we pause on a frame that has the ghosting and really take a look, we can see the exact outline of the previous shot. Here are a few still frames within the same scene that also have this happen, and sometimes it can honestly happen every single time there's a cut. It can be very distracting once you notice it. Now, thankfully, this issue is fixable. Simply go into the reduce noise menu under advanced settings and set signal noise to low. If this option is grayed out for you while playing either standard dynamic range content or Dolby Vision, go into the input picture settings menu and disable 444 in that menu, and that should allow you to make changes to the reduced noise settings. So with this fix applied, pausing on those same shots from earlier, and again, the ghosting is just nowhere to be found. I also have not noticed any negative side effects from setting signal noise to low, so it shouldn't really negatively impact the picture quality at all. So this next issue affects all HDR10 content, and unfortunately I haven't found a way to really fix this issue at all, although I'll talk about a workaround that isn't really ideal that you can try. So basically, the way the Vizio display handles red and browns when playing back HDR10 from games and movies is now broken when using picture modes like Calibrated Dark, and Game. It causes some weird blocking artifacts depending on the color and color tone of the scene and movie itself, with some content showing the issue far more than others. It can show up in backgrounds, faces, flesh tones, basically everything in the scene. Movies with a lot of dominant red and brown colors like Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, and even films like Fast and Furious 9 will really make this issue stand out. So to show you what I'm talking about, I'll use this pause frame from The Martian. Now hopefully this shows up on camera so you can see it. If we take a look at the background behind Matt Damon's character, we can see these weird red blocking artifacts that just should not be there. The reason I chose to use a pause frame here is that these artifacts are constantly changing and moving, and that may have not been picked up when the camera is in motion. But you can absolutely see this in person from a normal viewing distance. Now, if we take a look at that same still frame from The Martian, but switch over to the bright picture mode, you can hopefully see in the footage that this weird color blocking goes away entirely. It seems that the way the Vizio handles gamma and color saturation with this latest firmware when in certain picture modes causes this issue, and switching to a picture mode like bright changes that gamma and color saturation curve to a point where the issue goes away. At least that's what I think may be going on, but I can't be entirely sure. So if switching to bright fixes the issue, couldn't you simply just use that picture mode in the meantime until the others are fixed with a firmware update? Well, this is the non-ideal workaround I was talking about. Yes, you could, but the issue is that the bright picture mode has a different gamma curve and also changes the way it handles colors and shades of gray. Now, the reason we use Calibrated or Calibrated Dark is that these modes have the most accurate colors and grayscale out of the box, and that will help the display present the content as close to the creator's intent as possible, save for a full-on professional calibration, of course. So since the bright picture mode has under-the-hood differences between something like Calibrated or Calibrated Dark, even if you match the settings to those other picture modes exactly, it will still look vastly different due to the way Vizio makes these behind-the-scenes adjustments to certain picture modes. For instance, in order to match the skin tone saturation of Calibrated Dark, I had to increase saturation in the bright picture mode to 65. Flesh tones will look fine, but greens, yellows, and blues will all look super off and saturated, almost to the point where it looks like you're using vivid mode. Unfortunately, I could not get this to show up on video well at all, so it's something you'll just have to try out yourself to see if you're okay living with certain colors not looking quite right, or if you'd rather live with some red and brown color blocking and desaturation. Now, to my knowledge, Vizio has not acknowledged this major issue yet, and in doing research, I'm not the only one affected by this red and brown issue in HDR10. There's a lot of people complaining on Reddit about it as well. I'll be posting this video in that thread along with pictures, so hopefully Vizio will see it and a fix can be in the works quickly. I really hope so, because it's honestly a pretty huge bummer to have your HDR10 picture quality go from amazing to way worse with just a firmware update. Now, if you're wondering what troubleshooting steps I've done that you can try also, then I'd recommend a factory reset if you have not done one already. I actually always do a factory reset after every firmware update just to prevent any issues or bugs. It's just something I've had the habit of doing with every TV I've ever owned. Now, while doing a factory reset has not fixed any of the issues for myself, you may have better luck, and it is worth a shot. Just remember to write down your picture settings before you do, as you'll need to re-enter those again after a factory reset is done. Now, I do want to reiterate that these are the issues that I've experienced myself, but others on Reddit have reported other issues as well. Some are saying that ARC and eARC are completely broken altogether with this latest firmware, and Vizio has stated they are aware and looking into the issue. People have also had an issue where the PS5 HDR calibration is literally crashing their sets when trying to set this up with game HDR turned on. The display will make a loud squealing or screeching sound and power itself off. So pretty scary stuff if you've never experienced that. Now, this seems to only happen on the 85-inch Vizio P-Series sets, and while I have not had this happen personally, it's something to be aware of. So at this point, it's just a wait and see game. Hopefully Vizio is on this and a firmware update is in the works to fix it ASAP. Like I said, I will be posting this video along with pictures in that Vizio thread, and I'll also be calling Vizio to let them know about this issue as well. If you have a Vizio set yourself and you recently updated the firmware, have you yourself ran into any issues, or has it been kind of smooth sailing? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and got value out of it, feel free to go ahead and hit that like button. Also, don't forget to click the subscribe button and ring the bell icon so you never miss out on any new videos I upload. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.